Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to open this symposium on behalf, of course, of ESRF. My name is Jean Suzini. I'm a director for life science at the ESRF, but also on behalf of our partners, ILL, ESRF, IBS, and EMBL, under the auspices, of course, of the PSB. I'll come back later on that. So the organizer was generous enough to give me 30 minutes to open this symposium. It's a very special day. It's a very special event since I guess this is the first time that we host a Cryo-EM event on the campus. It's also a first because I guess it's the first time that we have this public broadcasting initiative also on the workshop. So it's a bit challenging on both sides. The organizer told me that we have 170 registered participants, which I guess is also a very good sign of the interest for this workshop. And most interestingly, half of the registered participants are outsider. I would say outside Grenoble and so on, which I guess could make this event very rich in terms of networking and exchanges. So I guess we have a very strong ground for a successful event. And the two objectives set by the organizer was indeed to introduce the new Cryo-EM initiative we took at the SRF and more largely on the EPN campus, but also try to discuss the exciting opportunity in structural biology opened by the advances in Cryo-EM and by the concept of integrated structural biology at multi-resolution level. So of course I'm not brave enough to discuss 30 minutes about Cryo-EM in front of you. So what I will suggest is to share with you some views about the motivation and the drivers of installing a Cryo-EM at the SRF in collaboration with our partner. So the starting point, of course, is more or less listed here with this different partner, and drawing your attention that the EPN campus, the European Photon and Neutron Science Campus, actually is a group of more than 500 scientists within a working distance. More than half of them are working in structural biology. And of course, the overall concept here is to exploit complementarities between the different techniques. And we have here two sources, X-rays and neutrons, but also to foster synergy and share resources and expertise with experts in the different fields, and in particular in structural biology. And that with the overall objective to create new interfaces and offline capacities for users and for our user community, and ultimately to enhance our visibility and outreach. Of course, one of the strongholds for structural biology is the Partnership for Structural Biology. You are going to hear a lot about this PSB, which is a group. It's a sort of virtual lab with a number of structural biologists on the campus. We have a physical building here, the Karl Ivar Brandin building. We have almost 70 researchers and technicians working there. And as you can see from this figure, we have a number of synergy between the different partners here, producing articles and science at two levels. The scientific research, but also some technical development. And this technical development is one of the drivers of this PSB, which can be then spread out on the different instruments we have on the different institutes. So that is really one of the focus points we have on the campus. We started in 2005 with 6 technological platforms. Today we have 23, which shows you really the momentum of the PSB. And you can identify here a number of key technology we are more or less providing to the users and the local scientists. And of course, electron microscopy is one of each, and I'll come back later on that. But since, as I said, half of the audience is more or less coming from outside Grenoble and sometimes a long way from France, I would like just in one or two slides remind you that ESRF is the only international synchrotrons, in the sense that we are an intergovernmental convention governing the ESRF. You have here a list of the different countries involving and participating to the ESRF. And you can see from this list that in most of the countries, we have a very healthy and proactive structural biology communities. Some of them have a national synchrotron, some of them have cryo-EM facilities, but a number of them actually don't. And this is one of the drivers we have here. Overall, we have 44 beamlines with state-of-the-art instrumentation. We are the first synchrotrons in terms of scientific output with about 2,000 publications per year. And we are also leading in terms of number of users with 7,000 user visits per year, which corresponds to more than 10,000 individual users in 3 years. And among our users, we are proud to have 4 Nobel Prizes and 3 actually structural biologists. But of course, life science at the SRF actually goes beyond X-ray crystallography, and we have a number of beamlines involved in life science. And you have here the different techniques with this color code, where we provide support, technical and scientific support to our community. And that is ranging from X-ray crystallography, scattering, spectral microscopy, imaging, and medical applications. So we are proud now to offer to our user community actually a multi-scale information which can range from the atomic and molecular level up to the organ size via the supermolecular structure there. So as you can see, we cover really the different techniques and the different scales here. If I focus a little bit more on the structural biology and taking 2016 as a reference point, what you can see here, you can see that structural biology in 2016, which corresponds to 16,000 shifts, which integrated correspond to more than 4 years of beam time in 1 year. 15% actually correspond to structural biology, but we still have also other activities in life science, chemistry, and environment, which are very close to structural biology. The interesting point here, and that is a little bit the take-home message, is the average experiment duration of an MX macromolecular experiment is 3 shifts, while for a non-MX, the rest is 12 shifts. So if you can convert that in a number of experiments, and we have close to 2,000 public experiment sessions in 2016, you see that structural biology corresponds to more than 45% in terms of number of sessions, which correspond really to the critical mass of our activity now. And that has to do with the level of automation and of the beamline and the organization. And one of the flagship of that is the so-called MASSIF, which stands for Massively Automated Sample Evaluation and Screening Integrated Facility, which is a sort of village, MX village we have, with several beamlines grouped together. Several of those beamlines are run by the so-called Joint Structural Biology Group, the GSBG. We have together with EMBL for both operation but also development of the instrumentation there. And the cryo bench, which is a part here for spectrophotometry applications, are run together with IBS. So you can see that we have a lot of synergy in terms we are running the different instrumentation there on the EPN campus. And as I said, MX beamline are today a sort of production technique and instrumentation. When we produce, and you see here the figures, an impressive number of structure deposited on the PDB, but also we have a large number of publications and high impact factor publications. And that, of course, has to do with the development of detector, robot, and high capacity dewards. So this level of standardization, I guess, is one of the plus and assets we have today, and I'll come back later on this point. But most importantly, ESRF developed a very unique expertise in the remote control access, meaning that now you have several beamlines, and one in particular are fully dedicated to this access mode. And overall, we have 12% of the data collection done remotely, and close to 1% for industry, where the users can more or less control from home the status of the beamline and the progress of this data collection. So that is also a very important element of the overall strategy. So overall, what I can say that synchrotrons, which I will, let's say, state as a classical MX beamline, is now a production instrumentation. We have a very high demand, but we have a very high throughput, so it's very well balanced. And in particular, thanks to the standardization and automated pipelines we developed together with the user community. And that is true for the crystallography, but also for the scattering techniques, and in particular for the biosacs, which in fact complements very well what we have already on the campus with neutrons and NMR techniques. But of course, the landscape is evolving very rapidly, and now we have also to consider that one of the cousins we have here is the XFEL development, where the paradigm here is measuring before destroying, because they are very fast. They can go up to the femtoseconds time scale. But I would say that it's a more pioneering experiment. So the level of expectation is very high, but at the end, the situation will be saturated very, very quickly by let's say, the penury of instruments, and there are only a few instruments planned worldwide. And there are still a lot of R&D needed really to exploit let's say, the unique properties of this type of source. But the interesting synergy we have between the two, let's say, the two communities is the serial crystallography, where we can learn from these pioneering experiments a lot from the synchrotron perspective about how to handle submacronic or macronic crystal, to take also full benefit of the very fast or ultra-fast detector developed for XFEL. But we can add also on our side the room temperature and the different time resolution. Actually, synchrotrons can really address questions from the milliseconds to the microseconds in a much more comfortable and straightforward way than XFEL. So we have a clear synergy here, and we took into account this evolution. And the first initiative we took a few years ago is the development of a microbeam diffraction facility. The project leader is Max Nanao, to develop really and to explore the different options of synchrotron-based serial crystallography, in particular aiming at multi-crystal workflows. We had some experience and interesting results. So far, together with some collaborators, some local, we explored the different options, but on ID13, which is not a fully dedicated beamline. So we took the strategic decision to have a dedicated beamline, able to provide large beam, but also micron-sized beam for this synchrotron serial crystallography. The long-term strategy there is, in fact, driven by a second initiative we took in 2015 as the second phase of our upgrade program, where ESRF decided to develop a completely new concept of storage ring. I don't want to come back on that because it will be too long. But in a nutshell, by an optimized magnet lattice and network here, you can shrink the horizontal emittance of the source and get a much brighter beam, something like 200 times more brilliant and more coherent than what we had today. And you can see that ESRF is ramping up his brightness very quickly now. For some recent computation showed that for the MX beamline, this gain will be even higher, and it will be several orders of magnitude there. So we will have a clear gain. Interestingly enough, this program will be complemented by a program to exploit the performance of this unique X-ray source by creation of new beamlines, but also by developing new detectors and developing also the concept of data as a service. And at least on the two last points, you can see some resonance with what Cryo-EM community are also developing. So why that? Because in the program of new beamlines, I'm glad to say that not later than last week, our council approved the construction of 4 beamlines, and among those 4 beamlines, one will be fully dedicated to serial crystallography. So we are more or less keeping track of the development on this field of manipulation of small beam for small crystals, and I guess that will be an asset for the community and for the campus. So if I come back to my synchrotron-centric slide, of course, the next part on the other side is Cryo-EM, which again is an expert instrumentation still, with very high demand, low throughput, but with a very large number of Cryo-EM now in Europe and worldwide, and something we have to take into account. The synergy area here is clearly data set merging to get this multi-scale approach, integrated structural biology, sample handling, data processing, and automated pipeline, when we can really learn from each other and exchange. So that is one of the drivers. So the question, of course, is where do we go there? And I just extracted that yesterday from the PDB. when you can see here the evolution. I think we are all familiar with that. With maybe two facts there. The first one is the emergence of Cryo-EM, which actually is ramping up very, very quickly for a number of reasons we are going to hear today and tomorrow. But the second question, of course, is still demonstrative here, because I mean, one of the drawbacks of this high throughput MX beamline is we are producing a lot of partial data set and so on, which are more or less inflating the number of structure on the PTB without necessarily a scientific case behind. So I think this is a question: where is the asymptote, and what is really the scientific asymptote there? So if we go ahead and try to have a crystal ball, it's clear that we have to push for complementarity, and that is one attempt of analysis where we can really combine X-ray and neutrons techniques, diffraction and scattering, and cryo-EM, with the overall objective to assess a greater number of molecules, the structures, for larger complexes and in particular for membrane proteins. X-ray crystallography is still very well suited for smaller and well-defined samples. It's still providing a very high resolution. And in the future, we have access for time resolution for example, reactions in small crystals. It's faster in terms of throughput, but once the crystallization conditions are well established, and it's very well adapted for smaller molecules. While cryo-EM is perfect for larger and less well-defined samples in cuts, because I guess it's something which can be detectable. No crystal is required, and that is, of course, the real asset we are fully aware about. Multi-states are accessible, because we don't need the cryo there, and not applicable to all samples. So you see really a balance between the two that I'm pretty sure that during this meeting, maybe you are going to kill one of these arguments here, but at least this is an attempt. So the question is, why develop electron microscopy at synchrotron facilities? And I guess there are clear reasons for that. The first one is the financial and logical requirements to install and run high-end electron microscope are indeed very similar to those on synchrotron's beamline. And actually, we are starting to share now this model of 24/7 access model, which has to be supported by expert staff. And that's, of course, some practical implication there. Then the synchrotron facility can provide the required infrastructure in terms of environment, in terms of data processing and storage capabilities, which is needed also for cryo-EM infrastructure. But most importantly, there are a well-established organization, and I would like to underline culture, to run a user facility. This is more or less in our DNA there. And in particular, we developed for years access, review procedure, data policy, which can be very, very useful also for to run a cryo-EM infrastructure, and will facilitate more or less the integration of such a cryo-EM on the synchrotron's world. Several synchrotron facilities have a strong structural biology user base, but which is very important is they are all expecting now coordinated access to cutting-edge method and instrumentation in an harmonized environment. They want to find the same interface. They want to find compatibility between the different files and so on, and data sets. And it's why I guess we are all motivated to work in synergy there. Synchrotron facilities are both research centers and user hub, where R&D, in-house research, external user program are in a very strong synergy. There are really a cross-fertilization between the different programs. And that, I guess, is exactly the same now for cryo-EM community. And finally, I'm not an expert in cryo-EM, but I read a couple of papers, of course. And it's interesting to see that cryo-EM and MX beamlines have a very, very similar instrumentation development path. Actually, we all were facing with instrument design, sample handling, 2D detector, data processing. And it is something we share, not with the same technical solution, but at least the intellectual path is very, very similar. And as a good example, this cryo-EM concept, like a beamline concept, has been successfully pioneered at Diamond Light Source with this EBIC center. We had a very recent paper on that. We show more or less the geographical distribution of their user, which of course, and for very good reasons, is biased towards UK users, but you can already see some European users there. And it's exactly what we did at the beginning of the project. We asked actually all our 53 ESRF MX bag responsible about their feeling about such infrastructure at the ESRF. We received 41 replies. You see the geographical distribution here, and you can see that we cover indeed a number of countries. All were supportive. Several have are already using a Cryo-EM, but a significant fraction of users is considering EM to complement their MX data, and this is really the target we have. But they have very limited access to a Cryo-EM, and they don't have any expertise in Cryo-EM. And of course, they would like very much to rely on the ESRF peer review system. 41 replies represent hundreds of users. Actually, for each bag, we have several hundred users in them. And I selected this quote here from one of the users who stated that we don't currently have a project that will benefit from combining from MX and Cryo-EM, but it's mostly because we haven't so far considered Cryo-EM beyond our reach. With a state-of-the-art ESRF Cryo-EM facility, we'll definitely change our mode of thinking about such options. So that is exactly the point. I guess we have really to open this, let's say, option and opportunity to our user community, MX user community. So why developing an electron microscope on the EPN campus? This is the last and next question. First, because the ESRF is indeed a Synchrotron facility, so all my statement on the previous slide applies there. We have the infrastructure, we have the right policy and culture. And most importantly, we can target an international user community, which is not the case, for example, for diamond. Let's say that for diamond is less obvious than for us. IBS has already an excellent user-oriented EM facility and has also a substantial scientific expertise. EMBL Grenoble is also very active on a Cryo-EM project. All the partners, including EMBL, IBS, and ILL, has already created the perfect framework for that with the Partnership for Structural Biology, which already provides a broad range of techniques and infrastructures. We can pull together the required human, technical, and scientific resources to make this project successful. And finally, it's clear that having this state-of-the-art Cryo-EM facility here will further enhance the scientific attractiveness of the site and reinforce the status of the EPN campus as a major European center for integrated biology. So that is something, of course, we are keeping in mind. So overall, this is the concept with a Cryo-EM at DSRF, with a strong involvement from IBS, and in particular with the different microscopes they have already, expertise from EMBL. We are also under discussion to have the ILL as a partner and to help us to develop complementary techniques there. And of course, the overall concept is to offer to the user community this microscope from preparation, screening, to the high-resolution data collection there. And that we are considering the MX bag as a sort of peer review system to give access to this microscope. I don't want to give you too much detail because you will get, let's say, expert presentation by Christophe and I don't remember his first name. Gregory, thank you. Sorry about sorry for Gregory. And Gregory who is going to give presentations on this platform from the different perspective, ESRF for the two first, and from IBS from the Gregory side. So I cannot, of course, finish without thanking the organizers. You have a long list of people, but in bold, I guess, are the people I would like really to thank for their involvement, Montserrat, Marco, and Guy, and also for the secretary assistant, the ESRF secretaries here, and also the sponsors. Actually, you can see here that we had a significant support from local institutions, but also local organizations like Frisbee and Graal, PSB, UGA, and CEA, and a number of industrial support would make this organization a little bit simpler. So I'm going to finish by wishing us a very fruitful workshop and symposium. We are all very excited by the different discussion we will have today, to see the opportunity for synergy between the different techniques. We cannot make this initiative successful without a very strong support from the MX and Cryo-EM communities. And that, I guess, is one of the key points of this 2 days event. I thank you for your participation, for the invited speaker who came sometime from a very long way. And I'm going to finish with my very new joke on that, and hoping that EPN in the future doesn't mean European Photon Neutrons, but Electron Photon Neutrons Campus. And with that, I thank you for your attention. So I'm not supposed to have questions, but if you need one clarification, of course, it's